What's up? Ghost Fictions is here, and we're back again. This is the first part of a story where Izuku was the son of the Prince Vegeta. After the girls in Class A, except for Momo, found their boyfriends cheating on them and getting suspended for the month, they end up getting 2 new students in their class, who happen to the children of the strongest people in the universe. But before we start, please consider subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Don't forget to check the description for more informations and support the amazing author DEVDOG756 for writing this story. Now, let's get into part 1. Things have been down in the dumps in Class 1 as Ichako, Mina, Kyoka, Toru and Sayu all caught their boyfriends cheating on them with random women a few days ago, which led to the cheaters being suspended for a month as they were waiting for class to begin. Damn it, why did Ida cheat on me? Was I that horrible of a girlfriend? Ichako managed to say that while in tears as her childhood friend Shoto Todoroki patted her on the back. It's nothing that you did, Ichako, Ida's just an idiot for not seeing how great you are. I appreciate the attempt, Shoto, but it's not helping. I can't believe I thought Ijiro was nice, that jerk. Toru was barely able to form that sentence between her tears as Kyoka and Mina were hugging each other. I can't believe I actually thought Kaminari was actually nice. That jerk constantly kept making fun of my chest. I knew Kirishima for years and this what he's really like. I wished I never met that unmanly bastard. Mina and Kyoka were in tears, but that proved to be entrainment for the asshole of the class, Kitsuki Bakugo. Maybe if you two put out for shitty hair and dunce face, you wouldn't be in this situation. Hell, you all wouldn't be in this situation. Bakugo was laughing at Mina and Kyoka's despair like the asshole that he is as Mina had enough of his attitude. You asshole. We weren't ready for that yet. Mina started going off at Bakugo as Sayu turned to face Momo. No wonder you turned Bakugo down, ya Momo. Ribbit. Anyone with a functioning brain should be able to immediately realize Bakugo's extremely toxic company and he's not even remotely close to being worthy of me. That remark from Momo made Bakugo ignore Mina as he started yelling at Momo. Say that again, you rich ponytail whore. I'm more than fucking worthy. All that did was just cause Momo to burst out laughing, which pissed Bakugo off even more. No, you're not. You're extremely rude, always quick to anger, have a massive superiority complex, always brute force your way through all situations, have no semblance of manners or tact, can't be able to speak without having at least one swear word in a sentence. Treat everyone you have ever met like trash regardless if they did anything to you, and you haven't even bothered to learn to fight without your quirk. All those cutting remarks from Momo kept making Bakugo more and more mad. With the right opponent and conditions, you're basically delaying the inevitable. Bakugo was about to attack Momo, but Izawa walked into the classroom, making Bakugo give Momo a dirty look as he sat down. Alright everyone, we have 2 new students joining the class today. That caught everyone's attention while Bakugo didn't give a shit since he thinks he'll be stronger than them anyway. One's taking Mineta's place since he was expelled last week. The 2 new students entered the classroom, a boy with dark black hair and a girl with bright blonde hair, both with tails as Bakugo's eyes widened with anger and rage at the sight of the two. Hello everyone, my name is Izuku Breeze, pleasure to meet you. And I'm Mordred Pendragon. Izuku and Mordred them noticed Bakugo as the two both smirked. Well, the mud actually made in. I'm honestly surprised. Izuku said while Mordred was laughing as Bakugo got made. What the fuck are you and her doing here, Deku? Didn't you listen to the teacher, we're the new students. Izuku, did you already forget the mud only likes listening to his voice and his voice alone? I guess I did, Mordred. Izuku and Mordred both started laughing, which made Bakugo more mad, but then Momo knocked him over the head. I'm sorry about him. I'm Momo Yaoi Rozu. Momo stuck her hand out as Izuku shook her hand. Pleasure. And condolences for being in the same class as him. Clearly you two have history with Bakugo. Yeah, a history of kicking his ass. Mordred said as everyone was in shock that the new students were insulting Bakugo without fear and started laughing at him. I've gotten way stronger since the last time we met, you monkey bastards. Izuku and Mordred looked at each and smirked before looking at Izawa. Permission to demonstrate our skills against Bakugo, Mr. Izawa. By all means, kid. Time skip. The class gathered at the training grounds as Izuku and Mordred finished changing as they made their way towards Bakugo as they took notice of Izuku's outfit. What's with a retarded outfit, Deku? Oh, what's wrong, Bakugo? Jealous of Izuku's muscles. Mordred said while smirking. It's a gift from my father, Bakugo, something you wouldn't know since you've never given a shit about your parents. Shut the fuck up, Deku. You know what, me and Mordred are feeling generous today, so here's the deal, we want you to hit us as hard as you can. Oh, is that right? Now hold on, you may not have heard me clearly. Not half as hard, not an arbitrary amount of hard. I want you to hit us as hard as you can. And if I don't play along? Bakugo said while having a smug grin on his face as Mordred smirked. Well then, I guess your parents were right about you. Mordred said, which made Bakugo really pissed as he punched Izuku and Mordred in the face. Oh, consider that nerve still touched. Izuku said as Bakugo backed up from Izuku and Mordred as he was horrified seeing that they weren't fazed at all. How? Because Bakugo, as a soon-to-be broken mutt once said, you're either perfect or you're not me. Mordred said before rushing Bakugo and kicking him far back as Bakugo kept bouncing of the ground as he was slowly losing momentum as he finally came to a stop while trying to stand up only to fall flat on his ass. I can't believe it. Only one kick and it sent him flying. Not even Iida's kicks are that strong. Ichako yelled in shock as the others still couldn't believe what they were seeing. Her kicks may be stronger than Mirko's. Momo yelled in disbelief. I'd hate to feel how hard her punches are. Kyoka said as the rest agreed with her as Bakugo was barely able to get back on his feet. See Bakugo, that's what you get for not getting your head out of your ass. Mordred said condescendingly towards Bakugo as he glared at her and Izuku. But since you've never been good with directions, we'll give you one more shot. You, us, hard as you can. Are we clear? Izuku asked as Bakugo steadied himself. Crystal. Bakugo then launched himself into the air before using his explosions to propel himself towards Izuku and Mordred like a tornado before firing a powerful explosion at the two. Bakugo looked at where the two were standing and due to the dust cloud, couldn't see them before immediately thinking he got them before Izuku suddenly flew towards him and kicked him as hard as he could. Bakugo hit the ground before finally falling unconscious as Izuku stood over him. Not way stronger my ass, he still fights like a child. He's a man-child Izuku. Fair enough Mordred. The two turned to the rest of their new classmates as he smiled at them. Hope you enjoyed the show. Izuku and Mordred then spent the rest of the school day getting to know their new classmates, which basically consisted of them asked how they were able to do what they did, which they just gave cheeky and vague answers. Izuku also noticed something was wrong with Ichako, Mina, Kyoka, Toru and Sayu, but he didn't say anything thinking it's not his place and that he just already met them. As the day ended, Izuku and Mordred packed their things and flew towards their home. Our new classmates seem nice, expect Bakugo obviously. You got that right Izuku. Also, is it just me or did you notice something's up with the Kirby looking girl with huge axe, the pink alien, the frog girl and the ghost girl? No, I noticed that too. Figured it wasn't my place to mention it. Yeah, fair enough Izuku. And I'm surprised none of them noticed this. Mordred held up her hand, showing she's wearing an engagement ring. Let's keep that to ourselves until one of them notices, it'll be funny. After flying for a while, Izuku and Mordred arrived at their room as they walked inside and heard little feet running towards them. Papa, Mama, you're home. Were you and Poka good for Uncle Trunks Eerie? Izuku asked as he picked up his little girls. You kidding? Those beans were angels. Izuku and Mordred turned to see Izuku's twin brother Trunks. Thanks for babysitting them for us Trunks. Don't mention it Izuku, you know I like spending time with my nieces when I get the chance. Yeah, especially since they stop you and Goten from doing something stupid. Mordred joked which made Izuku laugh as Trunks rolled his eyes as he left and flew off. Papa look, I made this for you and Mama. Poka hands Izuku and Mordred a drawing she made of the two of them. Aw, thanks Poka, we love it sweetie. Mordred then kissed Poka on her forehead as she lifted Poka from Izuku's arms. Izuku then put Eerie down when he felt someone behind him as he turned around and caught a punch as he smirked. Nice try, you're getting rusty dad. Just making sure you're not making sure you made the same mistake Gohan made. I'm hurt dad. Name one time I ever skipped out on training. Whenever you were out on secret dates with Mordred. Vegeta smirked at his son as Izuku stumbled with his words. Yeah, I walked right into that on. Grandpa. Eerie and Poka ran to their grandfather as Vegeta just smiled and ruffled their hair. So, I don't think you came to visit just to see I didn't pull a Gohan. Not fully. Vegeta put his hand in his pocket and pulled out a capsule and threw it to Izuku. Your mother finished your outfit. She didn't design it based on Gohan's did she? No, I made sure she didn't. Good. I swear, that outfit looks ridiculous, I'm surprised he hasn't noticed that. He has some of Kakarot's obliviousness. Like how Mordred has her parents' hormones. Oh, not cool. Think twice before you decide to want to mate with my son then, you're almost as bad as Broly and Artoria. Mordred rolled her eyes and flipped off Vegeta which he did the same as he flew off. He's not wrong though Mordred. Oh, don't you start now Izuku. Mordred pouted as she looked away from Izuku as he just rolled his eyes as he turned Mordred around and kissed her. Better now princess. Oh, shut up Izuku. Mordred blushed bright red as Izuku just laughed and hugged her as she hugged back. You're an idiot sometimes Izuku. Yeah, but I'm your idiot. Yeah, you are. Mordred said while shaking her head as they lifted Eerie and Poka up as they hugged them. The next day rolled around as Izuku woke up as he stretched and turned off their alarm clock as Mordred woke up not long after he did. Morning Izuku. Morning Mordred. Izuku smiled as Mordred leaned close to him as she kissed him, which then turned into a mini makeout session between them. Couldn't wait could you? Izuku asked while having a cocky grin on his face. Not my fault my fiancé is cute, handsome and sexy at the same time. Mordred replied with an equally cocky grin on her face as they got out of bed and went downstairs as they saw Eri and Poka made breakfast for them. Surprise mama and papa. Aw, thanks my little beans. Mordred smiled as she lifted Eri and Poka onto her shoulders and kissed them on their foreheads as she and Izuku sat down and started eat. Izuku, how much you want to bet Bakugo's going to want to fight us again, despite still recovering from our ass kicking? Why would I bet on that Mordred, he definitely will. Hey you never know, maybe we hit him so hard we made his brain start working properly. I'll believe that when Yamcha actually contributes in a meaningful way. Izuku's remark made Mordred started laughing which he joined in on himself. Time skip. Class was almost over for the day as Aizawa was asleep as Izuku just looked at his teacher with an unimpressed look on his face. Either he barely gets any sleep or he's just a neglectful teacher. Izuku thought to himself when Mordred stepped up to the front of the class and got everyone's attention. Alright, how many of you know to fight hand to hand? Mordred waited for a second as Achako was the only one who fully rose her hand, while Momo did a so-so motion with her hand, leaving Mordred dumbfounded. You're fucking kidding me right? Only one of you knows how to fight with the other being so-so, I can't tell if you're all naive or completely egotistical. Mordred yelled at the top of her lungs which freaked out everyone except Izuku. Get changed, we're fixing this right now. Mordred yelled again as everyone got up and went to change as Izuku just looked at her. Always nice whenever you get fired up. Izuku smiled which made Mordred blush slightly. The two made their way to get changed as Bakugo gave the two a dirty look but couldn't do a thing about due to him being forced to sit out of training until his injuries are healed. Izuku and Mordred got changed and were the first ones to the training grounds as the rest of their classmates arrived as the two looked at each other. I'll fight the guys and leave the girls with you, that fair? Izuku asked as Mordred nodded her head as she and the girls built into a spirit group as Izuku looked at the boys. Alright boys, here's the deal. I'm giving you 5 minutes to restrain me. But you can't under any circumstances use your quirks, you do and I automatically win. Am I clear? The boys all nodded their heads and were all a bit spooked given how easily he'd beaten Bakugo's ass yesterday as Izuku got into a battle stance. Hit me with your best shot. Sato and Shoji were the first ones to attack Izuku as they both went in to punch him, but he caught them with ease and pushed them back. Aoyama, Koda and Tokoyami all tried attacking Izuku from behind, but Izuku fended them off, quickly knocking Koda back before knocking Aoyama and Tokoyami back with ease. Come on chumps, we've got 4 more minutes left. Izuku yelled when suddenly Shoto threw a punch at him which Izuku dodged, but Shoto surprised him by going for a kick as Izuku jumped over him as Shoto went for another kick, but Izuku blocked this one with his hand. I'm impressed. I didn't think Endeavor Jr. had some tricks up his sleeve. I don't know if I should take that as a compliment or an insult. Take it how you want. Izuku said as Shoto jumped back and started throwing punches at Izuku, but Izuku dodged all of them with ease as Shoto kept trying hard and harder to win which impressed Izuku. Not bad. He's got the right spurt, he just needs to learn not to rely on his quirk, regardless how strong it is. Meanwhile, Mordred gave the girls the exact same limitations Izuku gave the boys, and she was not playing nice as they all tried their harder to restrain Mordred, but she easily outclasses them. Come on, I fought better than all of you combined when I was a little kid. Mordred shouted at them in order to get them fired up as Achako stepped up and pressed her attack as Mordred blocked her every strike with ease and precision. You all aren't entirely hopeless, you lasted way longer than the mutt did, but that's not much of a milestone. Thanks. Achako replied, not knowing if she should take Mordred's statement as a compliment or not, when suddenly Momo was able to get Mordred into a chokehold. Not bad rich girl, you're more capable than I thought. But time to stop messing around. Mordred elbowed Momo in the sides, making her release over Mordred as she punched Achako in the face, making her stumble back as Mordred flipped Momo over her shoulder before throwing her into Achako as Mina tried to trip her up, only for Mordred to jump over Mina. Grab her by the back of the head and threw Mina into the ground. Toru and Sayu then tried to get Mordred with a surprise attack, but Mordred teleported behind them, tripped them up and punched them into Momo and Achako, knocking them down. After the 5 minutes were over, Izuku and Mordred stood over their classmates as they were spread out all over the ground. Well, you all did a bit better than we were expecting. Izuku said while chuckling as Mordred shook her head. See, this is why it's important to know how to fight hand to hand, because if you're unable to use your quirks, you're all just deadweight. Thankfully, unlike the teachers here, we're more than willing to beat you all into shape. What Mordred is trying to say, we're more than happy teaching all of you martial arts, especially you Uraraka. Miyachako was genuinely surprised at what Izuku said as he walked in front of her. You're the only one in the class who actively learned martial arts in order to make up for the fact your quirk not having much on the offensive side. That's more than I can say for most pro heroes who just figure they can brute force their way through anything. Hell, Bakugo did the same thing to me when we were kids, and me and Mordred always kicked his ass, all the time. Ichako was surprised as Izuku's assessment, which made the rest of the class feel stupid for not thinking of working on their hand-to-hand skills. Alright, whenever we all have free time, Izuku and I will teach you all know to fight hand-to-hand and show all those stuck-up, egotistical pricks quirks aren't everything. Mordred said in order to get them fired up when Mina noticed her ring. Pendragon, what's with that ring? Who would have thought Pinky picked up on this first? Might as well show you all. Mordred said before grabbing Izuku's hand and kissing him, shocking their entire class. You're dating? Toru screamed out loud as the other just face-palmed. She's wearing an engagement ring, Toru, they're engaged. Momo said as Toru slapped herself for being stupid as they went back to class, gathered their stuff and all went home. While Izuku and Mordred were walking, they heard Bakugo yelling at them as he ran towards them as they both sighed. What now, Bakugo? Can't you see I'm spending time with my fiancé? Mordred asked in an annoyed tone as she grabbed Izuku's arm. Whatever you two freaks have done to get stronger over the years, it doesn't matter. I'll beat you both into the ground where you belong. We're the freaks. Technically speaking, you're the freak since quirks are basically a birth defect if you think about it. Doesn't help that your quirk makes you a terrorist's wet dream. Izuku said coldly and harshly, which made Mordred laugh as Bakugo got pissed off and punched Izuku in the face, only for him to hurt him due to his injuries the day before, and the punch didn't even make Izuku flinch. Ow, fuck. Bakugo yelled in pain as he held his arm as Izuku just looked at him. Let me make this perfectly clear, Bakuho, you're not top dog. You never have and you never will be. Izuku and Mordred then started flying towards their home, leaving Bakugo seething with rage. I'll show you two monkeys, I swear. Days have passed since Izuku and Mordred joined Class 1, and the two have settled in pretty well and got along with their classmates pretty well, while not having the best impression of Aizawa. Right now, Aizawa was actually teaching a lesson for once, but his tone of voice was so freaking low, it was a pain in the ass to hear him. How are any of them able to listen when he's teaching? Izuku asked Mordred while leaning towards her. I have no clue, it's like he wants us to fail his classes. Mordred said with some discontent for the incompetence of her homeroom teacher. Well, apparently he expelled a whole class on the very first day, so you might be on the money with that, Mordred. Izuku said when suddenly an explosion was heard from outside as everyone ran to the window as they were shocked to see a bunch of Nomu attacking the campus, while Izuku and Mordred were both confused and disgusted looking at them. What the hell are those things? Mordred asked while in shock. It's like every nightmare I've had fused into one, cloned itself, fuck the clone, and then made those. Izuku yelled out loud as everyone looked at him. That's an terrifyingly accurate way to describe Nomu. Momo said as Mordred looked at her. The fuck are Nomu? Mordred asked while shaking Momo like crazy. They're powerful, mindless monsters designed to kill All Might. Ichako said while shaking as Izuku opened the window. Reese, what the hell are you doing? Aizawa yelled as Izuku and Mordred prepared to jump out the window. Your job, old man. Izuku and Mordred then both jumped out the window and flew towards the group of Nomu, while Momo ran off to get help. Izuku was able to speed blitz a couple Nomu, bringing them down to their knees as Izuku punched one into the air as he put his hands together and stuck them out. Final flash. Izuku's attack completely wiped the Nomu off the face of the earth, leaving their classmates who were watching completely surprised. He left no trace of the thing left. Mina said in awe. So, I guess his quirk is an energy-based one. Tokoyami said while being in awe of Izuku but keeping it to himself. Mordred was also making the Nomu she was fighting her bitches, as Mordred was effortlessly dodged all the attacks the Nomu were throwing at her. Wow, this is really boring. You'll have to try to up the anticipation here. Mordred said as she dodged a punch from the Nomu before she punched it through the chest. Mordred then punched the Nomu so hard, it ended up flying into space as she turned to the other Nomu and ripped through them as well. Whoa, Pendragon's both powerful and badass. Kyoka said while completely in awe of Mordred's strength and skills as Mordred threw the Nomu, she just ripped apart into the air before firing Kai blasts at them, completely evaporating them as their classmates were wonder if they should step in to help Izuku and Mordred as Shoto was able to slip away without being noticed. Izuku and Mordred kept on fighting the Nomu attacking the school, as suddenly a bunch of the Nomu they were fighting were all frozen alive as they turned to see Shoto. Didn't think anyone would step in to help us. Mordred said as Izuku just shook his head as Shoto heard a familiar voice as the remaining Nomu all stood still, while Izuku and Mordred looked around to see where the voice came from, as they looked down and saw a midget with purple balls for hair. Mineta, I knew you were a low-life degenerate, but I didn't think you'd do something this low. Shoto said with complete and utter discontent for his former classmate, as Mineta smirked smugly. What can I say, pretty boy? The LOV actually recognized me and accepted me, unlike you bastards. With their help, I'll kill you all and get my harem. Mineta said smugly as Izuku and Mordred both broke out laughing. You? A harem? You're so short even women who like their men short wouldn't even touch you with a 30-foot pole. Mordred said between her laughter. You probably only half a nanosecond before you nut. Ha 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 ha. Izuku also said while laughing as Mineta looked at the two Saiyans, pissed off. Who the fuck are they? Be replacements, great bitch. Shoto said as Mineta was in disbelief. We weren't informed there were new students. And why another pretty boy? Mineta whined before looking at Mordred with a disgusted look on his face. Ugh, you look just as flat as Jiro. No, you're even flatter than her, why don't you have big breasts you bitch? I'll probably leave her to be raped by the Nomu while I rape the girls in the class. Ha 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 ha. Just hearing that Mineta insulted Mordred's looks and planned on raping his female classmates, while leaving Mordred to be used by the Nomu pissed Izuku off and sent him over the edge as he began to start powering up as his hair started turning golden. The strength and intensity of Izuku's transformation completely shook the area around as his classmates all fell down, while Shoto was literally blown away, but Mordred kept on standing as Mineta immediately lost his confidence and hid behind the Nomu as Izuku's transformation finished as everyone looked at him in awe. You've crossed two massive lines, you grape-looking bastard. First was insulting Mordred's looks. Second was having the audacity to making the girls in my class and Mordred nothing more than cheap whores to do what you please with. Izuku started walking towards Mineta, radiating the energy of a pure, unadulterated badass, as Mineta was completely scared shitless. Mordred smirked as she began to power up as her hair spikes up, she suddenly bulked up a bit as her eyes turned yellow, making Mineta scared. WW, what are you two? Mineta asked out of sheer fear. Fun fact, there are two things you never take away from a Saiyan. Their pride and their mate. Mordred said as she and Izuku all charged the Nomu as Mineta just ran away and hid like the little bitch he is as Izuku and Mordred ripped all the Nomu to literal pieces. I can't believe this, they're even stronger now. Sato said while in complete disbelief as the others agreed with him. Seems like Briefs and Pendragon have way more up their sleeves than we thought. Ribbit Sayu said as they continued watching the fight from the classroom before Tor realized something. Wait, Pendragon mentioned something called a Saiyan. Any of you have any ideas what a Saiyan is? The whole class thought for a second before all agreeing they had no idea what a Saiyan is as back at the fight, Mordred caught a punch from a Nomu and ripped its arm off before punching its head so hard, it flew clean off. HMPH, this barely counts as a warm-up. Mordred said to herself as she jumped over a Nomu, created a Kai ball as she pushed it into the Nomu's chest as it went flying before blowing up as Shoto got up after getting over his shock and awe and got back into the fight as he created a ice sword and beheaded all the Nomu he froze and knocked them all over, comp shattering on impact for good measure. Izuku caught a punch from one Nomu before he punched it in the face, making it fly into a few other Nomu as he fired an energy blast, completely wiping them off the face of the earth as Izuku noticed a Nomu trying to pull a fast one on Mordred, but before either one of them could react, the Nomu was split open. The Nomu was then cut up into a lot of tiny pieces, before all the pieces were incinerated, before three Nomu were suddenly blown apart as two people landed, which Izuku and Mordred recognized. Mom, Dad. Mordred said with excitement and happiness as in an instant, all remaining Nomu were destroyed with ease as Izuku, Mordred, Broly and Artoria all stood before Mineta, who was now pissing his pants. Ready to die grape, Izuku said with a smirk on his face as Mineta tried to talk his way out. WW wait, you can't kill me. I know a good chunk of the League secrets and locations of all their hideouts. You kill me, you wouldn't know where they are until it's too late. Said Mineta, hoping that would get them to keep him alive, but Izuku places his hand on Mineta's head as Izuku saw all Mineta's memories as he glared at the grape. No need, I saw into your memories you sick fuck. Now die. Izuku charged a Kai blast as he wiped Mineta off the face of the planet. Izuku lowered his hand as he left no trace of Mineta left as he turned to face his future in-laws. Thanks for the save mom, but I had that. Sure you did firecracker. Artoria said as she sheathed her sword while Mordred rolled her eyes at her mother's remark. You knew we could handle that by ourselves right? Izuku asked which made Broly chuckle. Yeah, but Artoria insisted we help. Of course she did. Mordred said as she rolled her eyes as Broly and Artoria started to kiss. Oh come on. Here. Mordred yelled as suddenly Momo arrived with a few of the teachers. Briefs, Pendragon, I brought. Help. Momo looked at the scene before her and was confused to what she was looking at as Broly and Artorias stopped kissing. Certainly took you all long enough. Did you all have something better to do than protect your students? Artoria asked, basically scolding the teachers as Momo looked down. I'm sorry it took longer than I thought it would have. Momo said as Izuku walked up to her. Hey, don't worry about it Yayoi Rozu, you did what you thought was best in the moment. Izuku said, which made Momo brighten up a bit as Broly glared at Aizawa while towering over the sleep-deprived hobo Batman wannabe and the rest of the staff. Take us to Nezu's office right now. It's high him we have a little discussion. Broly said, which made the staff nervous while Artoria glared at them. Oh boy, mom and dad doesn't seem happy. Mordred said while whispering to Izuku. Makes sense. We basically did our teachers' jobs for them while they were sitting on their asses doing nothing, not even getting our classmates to safety. Izuku said back to Mordred as they were led to Nezu's office and the two half-Saiyans, now things are about to get messy. Tension was very high as Broly and Artoria were in Nezu's office, as the legendary Super Saiyan completely towered over the staff present, while Artoria was glaring at them, mostly towards Aizawa, while Izuku and Mordred were leaning against the wall. Well, this is certainly a surprise Broly. Nezu said while trying to hide his fear as Artoria's glare intensified, which made Nezu sweat a little. Well, I guess there's some explaining that needs to be done. There is. For starters, why was our daughter and Izuku were doing your jobs while you were all sitting on your asses doing jack shit? Artoria asked with a very strict tone in her voice as she looked at Aizawa. You didn't even bother trying to stop them. Well, my little firecracker and Izuku are some of the most stubborn people ever to live, you just let them go when for all you knew, they were heading right for their deaths. Care to explain that? Artoria asked, basically on the verge of yelling at Aizawa, who was definitely shaking in his boots, as Broly put his hand on her shoulder. My wife has a very good point. The only show of Mordred and Izuku's strength was during a beatdown of the mutt you call Bakugo, and that just made you think they were able to take those freaks on, despite not knowing what their limits are. Well, I thought they could handle it. Aizawa shuddered while very carefully choosing his words, hoping not to piss off Broly and Artoria, which was failing horribly, as they were glaring holes into his head when Izuku spoke up. Here's something I'd like to know. Why is it that your Raka and Yayoi Rozu are the only ones in your class who are capable of fighting without using their quirks? That question from Izuku surprised the staff, Nezu included, as they all looked at Aizawa as everyone in the room was waiting for an answer from him. Well, our aim is to help our students to control their quirks. So what, you just expect them to have prior experience with hand-to-hand combat, and if they don't, you don't bother to offer helping them learn and expect them to learn elsewhere. Aizawa was at a loss for words as the other staff members looked at Aizawa, their facial expressions revealing that they had no idea Aizawa was that lazy while doing his job as Artoria face palmed. Honestly, how a man like you is a teacher is beyond me. Not only are you extremely lazy and have your students take over lessons for you, but you also expelled an entire class the very first day because they didn't meet your standards. Who died and made you the judge of heroic standards? Artoria yelled at Aizawa, demanding an answer from him when he was about to talk back to her, but was shut up by Broly going Super Saiyan. Nezu, we'd like to take over your students' training for the weekend. We'll do what he's too lazy to do and beat them into shape. Of course Broly. Actually, school will be off for a few days as we'll have a very stern conversation with Aizawa about his behavior, so you have full reign of their training during their time off. Nezu said while glaring at Aizawa as Izuku, Mordred, Broly and Artoria left the room. Welp, safe to say his lazy ass is going to get fired. That or at the least demoted or something like that. Those would be safe bets to make Firecracker. Artoria said as she placed her hand on her daughter's shoulder and smiled. Well, our classmates are definitely going to have a lot of questions after seeing me go Super Saiyan. Izuku said while walking with his hands in his pockets as he sensed his classmates' energy signatures, meaning they haven't left yet as they made their way to the classroom. As they made it to the classroom, their classmates immediately started asking Izuku questions, mostly about Super Saiyan, when they all immediately shut up once Broly and Artoria walked into the room. Everyone, these are my parents Artoria and Broly. Mordred said casually while everyone was understandably intimated seeing Broly absolutely dwarf him in size. Well, I know you all are going to have a lot of questions after what you just saw. Izuku said as his classmates all nodded as he began explaining everything to his classmates. After his explanation, the others started to see if they fully caught everything Izuku said. So, you two are half Saiyans, which are a nearly extinct warrior race. Ichako said as Izuku and Mordred nodded. And that blonde-haired form you used is called Super Saiyan, which was thought to be nothing more than a legend. Kyoka said while still wrapping her head around what she was told. And Pendragon's father is actually the legendary Super Saiyan from those old legends. Momo said while extremely fascinated with what she discovered. Yeah. Also, just call me and Izuku before our first names. Mordred said as the others nodded. So, your tails are real then? Said Mina as Izuku and Mordred nodded as they uncurled their tails around their waists. Yeah, why didn't you ask if you weren't sure about that? Izuku asked while looking at Mina. Well, we were worried if that would make you too upset. Toru admitted, which made Izuku and Mordred chuckled a bit. Hey, as long as you're not trying to being an asshole while asking questions, feel free to ask us anything. Mordred said as Broly then spoke up. Anyways, Nezu said school's off for a few days while he sorts out your pitiful excuse of a homeroom teacher, and in that time we'll be whipping all of you into shape. Broly said completely casually, which completely shocked the class as Artorias sighed and smacked Broly upside his head. Ignoring my husband's extreme lack of tact, we're going to handle your training for the next few days. Mostly your hand-to-hand combat training, since Aizawa clearly couldn't be bothered to get that memo. Artorias said while everyone was understandably a bit overwhelmed by this sudden news. Meet us at Capsule Corporation tomorrow afternoon, we'll start then. Izuku said as everyone wondered why that was the place picked to train. Wait, why a Capsule Corporation? Momo asked as Izuku just smirked at her. Because, that's where my mom lives. Izuku said as Momo quickly pieced it together as she was shocked as Mordred put her hand on Izuku's shoulder as they teleported home due to Izuku using instant transmission, as Broly and Artoria did the same, leaving the class completely in shock. The four then arrived at Izuku and Mordred's home as Mordred fell onto the couch. Well, that went well all things considered. Mordred said as Eri and Poka ran towards Broly and Artoria and gave them hugs. Grandma, Grandpa. The two beings said in unison as Broly and Artoria smiled as they picked up their grandchildren. My little grandbabies. Have you been good for your mama and papa? Artoria asked as she kissed Eri on the forehead. We have Grandma. Eri said as she smiled at Artoria as they heard snoring as they saw Trunks was asleep on the other couch as Izuku slapped him awake. Alright, I'm up. Trunks said as he got up and rubbed his eyes as Eri and Poka giggled at the antics of their papa and uncle. Did you have to slap me awake, Izuku? Hey, that's light compared to some of the stuff you pulled to wake me up when we were kids. Yeah, I know, I was a little bastard when we were kids. Trunks said right as Mordred slapped him in the face. Watch your mouth around the kids, Trunks. Yeah, I'm not getting lectured on what not to do from you, Mordred. Trunks said, which got on Mordred's nerves. Why you little? Before Mordred could do anything, Artoria smacked her and Trunks upside their heads. Knock it off, both of you. I swear, this back and forth between you two hasn't changed since you were kids. Artoria said while sighing as Broly rubbed her shoulders and Eri and Poka gave her a hug as Trunks pulled Izuku and Mordred to the side. You two need to find better hiding spots. Trunks said to Izuku in Mordred's confusion as he pulled out a pair of handcuffs and some rope, which Mordred immediately took from him and hid in her jackets. How did you find those? Izuku asked while he and Mordred were blushing like mad. Well, they were near your bed and… Why the hell were you in our room? Mordred asked while shaking Trunks. Well, I was looking for something that I knew you kept in your room and I found those laying near your bed. Trunks explained, which made Mordred blush even harder as Trunks smirked. So, more restraint than Artoria and Broly, huh? Trunks said with a smug grin on his face as Mordred slapped him in the face before running off towards her and Izuku's room as Trunks and Izuku grabbed something to drink. She's more like Artoria than she cares to admit. Yeah, tell me something I don't know, Trunks. Izuku said as he and Trunks took sips from their drinks. And, not like you're better, Trunks. I don't know what you're talking about, Izuku. So, that time you were dominated by Ranch while she was in Super Saiyan grade 3 slipped your mind? Izuku asked with a smug grin in his face, which made Trunks very embarrassed and blush like crazy. I hate you sometimes, you know that. Yeah, I love you too, bro. Izuku was in the middle of training in the gravity chamber at his parents' place, while in 100x Earth's gravity as he was in Super Saiyan, and Izuku was still moving around and training at a fast rate despite the increased gravity, which is due to Izuku already having lots of experience with gravity training with his father. Izuku was currently in the middle of doing one-fingered push-ups. Shit, I lost count of how many push-ups I've done. Think it was barely over 9,000. Izuku thought to himself as he finished his workout as he left the gravity chamber as he noticed Vegeta with his younger sister Bulla. Big bro. Bulla yelled out loud with joy as she flew towards Izuku and gave him a hug. Hey sport. Izuku said while smiling as he hugged her back. Appa told me you and Big Sis killed a bunch of ugly and scary monsters. Bulla said with lots of enthusiasm as Izuku as he just chuckled and ruffled her hair. Those freaks of nature were barely a challenge for me and Mordred. Though they were absolutely horrifying. Izuku then shivered while thinking about how the Momo look. Those monsters sound like they're pushovers like Yamcha. Bulla said, which caused Izuku and Vegeta to start laughing out loud. That's my little princess. Vegeta said in between his laughter. Let's not get too savage, Bulla. Izuku said while he was still laughing at Bulla's comment as he heard Bulma telling him his classmates finally arrived as Izuku went to greet them. Along with Vegeta and Izuku's classmates were all absolutely horrified upon seeing Vegeta. Everyone, this is my father. Izuku said as Vegeta said nothing as he looked at his son's class and wasn't fully impressed with what he was seeing so far. What? There's no way that mean and scary looking guy is your father. Mina yelled out loud, mostly out of fear as everyone looked at her like she's completely stupid when they heard a new voice. I'd learn to keep that mouth of yours shut, you hyperactive one, imagine. The voice said as they saw other intimating man wearing armor, a red headband, and had a scar on his face who looked like he'd seen some shit. So, you're their classmates. Broly told me you all weren't nothing special, but this is just ridiculous. That gave beaten around the bush a little bit, Bardock. Vegeta said as he turned to face the other Saiyan. No, it's high time that these brats learn the facts of life, Vegeta. This stupid hero society is far from the sunshine and rainbow bullshit they've been practically brainwashed into thinking it is, and that they are nowhere near ready to handle what the world really has to offer. Bardock said with a cold and blunt manner, not bothering to mince his words, which made Izuku's classmates flinch a bit. TTT, that's not true, we're definitely ready. We've fought villains multiple times before, and that's why we're at UA in the first place. Toru said while very nervous out of her mind as Bardock and Vegeta looked at her for a moment before bursting out in laughter. Ahahahaha. What, you want a gold medal? These stupid villains you heroes deal with on a regular basis are nothing in the grand scheme of things. Vegeta said while laughing. How long can you all even go without relying on your stupid birth defects? Bardock said. Quirks aren't defects, Toru yelled back at Bardock, but Bardock stood up straight. Yes they are, and you need to get that through that thick skull of yours. Not to mention quirks have basically made people lazy and not bother to put in the work to improve themselves. That shit changes now. Bardock yelled back as Toru ran behind Mina to hide from Bardock as he looked at Vegeta. Where the hell is Broly? Bardock asked Vegeta. Knowing him, he's probably too busy blowing Artorias back out and lost track of the time. Vegeta said when Broly landed as he walked over to the other two Saiyans, as they both noticed his face was bright red, which made Vegeta smirk. Don't you even say a single fucking thing, Vegeta. Broly said, but Vegeta still had that shit-eating grin on his face. Busy night for you, legendary MILF breeder. Vegeta said with a smug tone in his voice as Bardock just face-planted. Oh fuck off, Bulma's bottom bitch. Broly snapped back at Vegeta. Well, least I can keep it in my pants. Vegeta said as he and Broly stared each other down. Least I'm not Kakarot second best. Broly said while looking down at Vegeta. Least Bulma's not a gluten. Least Artoria knows how to fight and doesn't bitch at me. Least Bulma's a fucking genius. Enough, both of you. Bardock yelled, which got Broly and Vegeta to stop their argument. Odd, you two still act like children sometimes. Now, let's get back on track, all of you follow us, expect you to, you're training with Izuku. Bardock said as he pointed at Momo and Ichako as he, Vegeta and Broly walked off as their class followed them as Izuku just looked at the two girls. Sorry about Bardock, he's a good guy at the end of the day, but he tends to be pretty hard on people. Izuku said while rubbing the back of his head. Well, he's not exactly wrong about quirks. Momo admitted as Izuku did some stretches before getting into a fighting stance. Let's have a quick warm-up. Meanwhile, the three older Saiyans led the rest of Izuku's class into the gravity chamber as they all turned Super Saiyan. Alright, let's begin. Bardock said as he got into a fighting stance. Let's see how long you can last. Wait, shouldn't we have some time to get used to this? Kyoka asked while scared out of her mind. Why yeah, shouldn't we have some warm-up first? Sato asked. Training begins now. Vegeta said as he backhanded Sato as he fell to the floor. You weren't ready. Vegeta said bluntly as the students were all completely out of their league and they definitely are fully aware of it. Saiyan boot camp begins now. Broly said while smirking as he knocked Shoji onto his knees with a single punch. Meanwhile, Izuku was giving Momo and Ichako some tips in martial arts, which to the two were picking up at a decent pace as they were doing some little sparring as Mordred eventually joined in. Not bad you two, you're picking up at this quicker than I thought. Izuku said as Momo threw a punch followed by a kick at Izuku which he dodged while Ichako landed a pretty lucky hit on Mordred. Damn, not bad there Cryby. Mordred said as she started throwing some punches and kicks at Ichako as she tried her best to keep up. So, what's exactly your history with Bakugo if you don't mind me asking? Ichako asked as she blocked some blows from Mordred and rolled out of the way. Izuku and I were stuck in the same classes as time until high school. God, it was a miracle when we learned he wasn't in the same high school as we were. Mordred said as Ichako threw some punches back her way. And I'm guessing he hasn't changed much since he was a kid. Achako inquired as she ducked under a kick from Mordred. Hell no, he got worse if anything. He always kept trying to prove he was better than us despite he always ended up getting his ass beat by us and he kept calling us monkeys. Izuku explained as he limboed under a kick from Momo as the two entered a little clash. I'm guessing that's a slur toward Saiyans. Momo asked. Oh, big time. Calling a Saiyan that is the quickest way to piss one off, aside from stealing their food, threatening their mate and children, or trying to strip a Saiyan of their pride. Izuku said as he broke the clash and tripped Momo up. What the hell is his problem with you two anyway? Achako asked as Mordred punched her as she went to the ground. Because his fragile ego refuses to accept there's anyone out there who's stronger than him, both physically and mentally. Mordred said as she helped Achako back up. So, how do you think our friends are faring with your dads and the man with the scar? Achako asked as Izuku and Mordred looked at each other for a moment. Meanwhile, Bardock, Vegeta and Broly were putting the absolute fear of God into the students as they were not playing nice as Bardock got check Sato, which sent him flying into Shoji as Vegeta backhanded Aoyama into the wall as he bounced off and into Kota and Shoto as Broly fired Kai blasts at the girls as Tsuyu barely managed to dodge while Mina and Toru got hit and flew into the wall while Ioka braced herself and put her arms out in front of her, particularly shielding her. Let's just say they're getting their shit completely rocked as we speak, and that's putting it lightly. Izuku said as Mordred nodded. There's a reason why they're some of the strongest people in the universe. Mordred said as she held Izuku's hand as Momo and Achako got curious about how they met each other. So, how did you two meet each other? Momo asked. Oh, we grew up together. We've been close to each other since we were born. Mordred said as she rested her head on Izuku's shoulder. Yeah, and we got together during the summer before our first year of high school. And I've never been more happy in my life, Mordred means the universe to me. Replied Izuku as he wrapped his arm around Mordred while Achako felt a bit sad seeing how much Izuku and Mordred love each other and that she wasn't that lucky as Momo patted her on the back. You'd be surprised how many girls tried flirting with Izuku over the year, mostly either because they thought he was handsome and nothing else, or because how rich his family is, but I made sure to scare all those skanks off. Mordred said with some pride which made Izuku blush. I get how that feels. Momo said when someone new appeared. Hey Izuku and Mordred. Oh, hey Goku. Izuku said as he and Mordred waved to Goku. You know if Vegeta, Broly and my dad are finished beating the crap out of your classmates. Goku said completely nonchalantly which shocked Momo and Achako. Didn't you mean training? Achako asked, nervous. No, I meant what I said. Goku said as Achako was a bit freaked out now. They should be soon. Izuku said as the three then walked outside as if it were right on cue. Yes, we are finished beating them Kakarot. Bardock said to his son. How long did they last for? Goku asked the other Saiyans. 5 minutes Kakarot, so not that long. And they're currently resting. Vegeta replied as Goku nodded. Yeah, they have a long way to go. Oh, I came by to tell you Cabba's here Vegeta. Goku said which perked Vegeta's interest. I see. Vegeta said, but Goku interrupted him before he can finish his sentence. As well as Caulifla and Kale. Goku said which made Bardock and Vegeta both growl in annoyance. What? What's wrong guys? Goku asked while Izuku and Mordred were confused. Do you have any idea how fucking infuriating Caulifla is Kakarot? Bardock asked while shaking his son. She's not that bad dad. Kakarot, she's fucking rude to all of us. She either calls us old or weak. Bardock said as he stopped shaking Goku. Okay, I admit she does have a bit of an attitude and ego, but she'll grow out of it. Vegeta did after all. Goku said. Kakarot, I'm Saiyan royalty and was an elite warrior. I had some reason to be arrogant, she's just a borderline street punk. Vegeta said while Momo and Achako were confused. Aren't they those Saiyans from Universe 6? Mordred asked the older Saiyans. They are Firecracker. Broly said, answering Mordred's question. Cabba's the one you're singing the praises of while Kale's the one who's basically a female knockoff of Broly, am I right dad? Izuku asked as Vegeta nodded his head to answer his question. Ugh, can't be helped then. Where are they now Kakarot? Bardock asked Goku. Oh, they're on their way from Gohan's. Goku explained which confused them. Why were they at Gohan's place? Broly asked, wondering why that was the case. Oh, Gohan needed my help with something so after I picked them up from Beerus's planet, I instant transmission to his place and after helping Gohan, I used instant transmission to get here and they're currently flying here right now. Goku finished explaining. You couldn't have instant transmission them here with you Kakarot? Bardock asked as Goku stared at his dad. Dad, what does it look like I am, a taxi? Besides, they can fly perfectly fine. Goku said as Bardock just sighed as Trunks walked outside. Dad, what's going on? Trunks asked as Vegeta turned to look at him. Those 3 Saiyans from Universe 6 are here to visit Trunks. Vegeta explained to Trunks. Huh, cool. I actually always wanted to take a crack at that Saiyan you're singing the praises of Dad. Trunks said with enthusiasm. I do not sing Cabba's praise, Trunks. Yeah, you do, Dad. Izuku and Trunks said both in unison as Vegeta just rolled his eyes. Welp, you'll get your wish, Trunks. Goku said with his usual Goku smile as Izuku and Mordred were getting a bit excited themselves. I think I'm looking forward to this. Izuku said with confidence as Mordred smirked with enthusiasm as well. That makes both of us, Izuku. After a while of waiting, the Universe 6 Saiyans showed up as Izuku, Mordred and Trunks were all surprised looking at them. Dad, where are their tails? Izuku asked, being confused seeing Saiyans without their tails as he looked at Vegeta. They don't have tails, Izuku. Vegeta said as Izuku just looked at him on confusion. What do you mean they don't have tails, Dad? Izuku asked with more confusion as Vegeta looked at him in confusion. What do you mean they don't have tails? Vegeta asked as the others just watched them. You said they're Saiyans, right, Dad? Izuku asked as Vegeta nodded his head. So why don't they have tails? Izuku asked again as Vegeta just shrugged his shoulders. I'm more confused as why they all look like so thin. Do gyms just not exist where they're from, along with decent fashion sense? Mordred asked while not so subtly glaring at Caulifla. What, you got a problem with my clothes, Blondie? Caulifla asked as she got into Mordred's face as the two stared each other down. Sis, maybe you shouldn't snap at her like. Shut it, Kale. And this is already off to a bad start. Bardock said as he and Vegeta both face-palmed as Goku started regretting this. Matter of fact, I do. Your pants look like they're about to drop at any moment. And you couldn't be bothered to put on a shirt or a jacket at the least. Mordred snapped back at Caulifla as the two kept staring daggers at each other as Goku got in the way. Mordred, I'm sure Bulma and Vegeta wouldn't be thrilled about you starting a fight right outside their home, right, Jeets? Can't speak for Bulma, but I don't really care. Besides, someone has to put that brat in her place. Vegeta said, which immediately got him a glare from Caulifla. The hell did you just call me, old man? Caulifla yelled at Vegeta, who responded by going Super Saiyan and glared at Caulifla, shutting her up. You heard me, brat. Now you may be from a different universe, and the Saiyans here are very few. I am still the prince of all Saiyans, so I expect you show me some respect, along with the others. Vegeta snapped at Caulifla as he saw Trunks heading inside. Trunks, where are you going? Vegeta asked as Trunks turned to look back at his father. Bedding changed into something more battle appropriate. Plus I don't want to get blood on my jacket. Trunks said as he went inside to change and came back out after a while as Vegeta approved of Trunks' change of clothes. Right then, let's head somewhere where we won't cause any unnecessary damage. Goku said as he and Bardock took off for a wasteland as the younger Saiyans followed after them, while Vegeta and Broly just watched them as they left. How do you bet it'll play out? Broly asked Vegeta. The brat and her sidekick have no chance against Izuku, and your daughter, only reason they lasted as long as they did against Kakarot was because he was winded during the tournament. As for Cabba, I'd say he can give Trunks a run for his money. Vegeta said as Broly scoffed. I still have no idea how Caulifla were able to push Kakarot back despite only having up to Super Saiyan 2. I can understand to an extent, but still. Broly said as Vegeta nodded his head in response. Goku and Bardock arrived at the wasteland as the two landed, followed by the younger Saiyans as he looked at them. Right, this will do nicely. Now then, this will be a fair, clean fight. No tricks. Trunks, you'll fight Cabba, Mordred will fight Caulifla, and Izuku will fight Kale. Goku said as they all nodded and spread out and all went Super Saiyan, except Mordred, which made Caulifla a bit cocky. What's wrong, scared? Caulifla asked while smirking, only for Mordred to smirk back at her. Like I'll be afraid of someone who looks like a stick. Now, get ready to feel my wrath. Mordred said before transforming into the wrathful form and speed blitzing Caulifla by hitting her in the stomach. Mordred then punched Caulifla across the face, sending her flying back as Mordred flew towards her and grabbed her leg and slammed her into the ground. But Caulifla managed to wrap her legs around Mordred and slammed her into the ground as both Saiyan girls aimed Kai blasts at each other and fired them, sending them flying back. Caulifla flew towards Mordred and threw punch after punch at her, only for Mordred to dodge and counter with ease due to Caulifla's rather sloppy fighting style as she managed to hit Mordred in the face, but Mordred just smirked as she started powering up. And the impact from Mordred powering up sent Caulifla back as Mordred fully transformed into Super Saiyan and continues to fight Caulifla. Meanwhile, Trunks and Cabba's fight definitely had a more friendly and respectful undertone, mostly on Cabba's side, due to Trunks being Vegeta's son, as they traded blows with each other. The two kept throwing punch after punch as Trunks fired a big bang attack at Kaba, who deflected it with his hand, and fired a blast back at Trunks, who ended up kicking it away, but it ended up hitting Caulifla in the back, causing her to start running her mouth as Mordred knocked her into the air. "How the hell do you put up with her attitude?" Trunks asked Kaba as he had a sheepish look on his face. "I'm basically numb to it at this point. Caulifla's not that bad once you get on her good side. Mostly." Kaba explained to Trunks, who wasn't fully convinced. "I highly doubt that. Don't blame you for thinking that," Kaba said as he and Trunks both powered up to Super Saiyan 2. The fights continued while Goku and Bardock were watching them, with Bardock laughing out loud every time Caulifla gets hit with immediate karma by Mordred. "Ahahaha, this is perfect. Hey street rat, maybe take advice from your elders next time." Bardock yelled at Caulifla as Mordred slammed her into the ground with a suplex, followed by an onslaught on multiple punches and kicks, as Bardock managed to record that with his phone. "Oh, Broly and Artoria are going to get a kick out of that," Bardock said while chuckling as he and Goku looked towards Izuku and Kale's fight, and he wasn't even close to being impressed with Kale's performance against Izuku. "Ugh, how the hell was she able to push you back during the TOP, yet she's getting her shit stomped?" "Well, the times she gave me trouble were when she went berserk and when she and Caulifla teamed up against me, so not looking too great for her," Goku said as Kale threw a punch at Izuku, which he dodged by limboing under it and fired a big bang attack at Kale, just barely dodging it, but Izuku immediately fired another one which hit Kale dead on. The impact sent her flying back as Izuku then started shooting a large amount of Kai blasts at Kale, keeping her off balance long enough for Izuku to go Super Saiyan 2. Izuku then closed the distance between him and Kale as he punched her right in the face, sending her off balance before laying down the smackdown on her. Kale landed on the ground and got back up despite being disoriented and knew the only way she could beat Izuku was with Caulifla's help before seeing Mordred absolutely toying with Caulifla by constantly dodging her attacks. "Quit moving and let me hit you," Caulifla yelled at Mordred, who just smirked. "Even if I did stand still, your punches wouldn't even tickle me. Because my parents didn't raise no bitch. Mordred before gut-checking Caulifla very hard. Kale was extremely pissed off. Caulifla was getting her ass beat hard as she got up to help her, but Izuku landed on her back, keeping her on the ground still as Izuku grabbed her by the collar. "Where's your pride, damn it?" Izuku said as he threw Kale into a nearby mountainside and flew towards her and held her by the head. "You pushed Goku back during the TOP, right? Show me that power," Izuku yelled before throwing Kale back to where they were moments ago, as Izuku was wondering what's stopping Kale from putting up much of a fight before see her look at Caulifla before getting an idea. "You got to be kidding me. You're reliant on her for strength, that's just pathetic," Izuku said, which got Kale pissed and punched Izuku right in the face, sending him back slightly, which made him smirk. "Alright, now we're cooking," Izuku thought to himself as Kale flew right to him as Izuku dodged her attack and blocked her next attack. "That's it, use your rage to tap into your power. You are strong, but you must grow a spine and learn to rely on yourself and yourself alone," Izuku said to Kale, which definitely surprised and confused her as to why Izuku was turning this into a lesson when he suddenly vanished from her view thanks to the use of instant transmission. Kale looked around all over the place for Izuku before she suddenly blacked out and fell to the ground, turning back into her base form as Izuku stood above her, having knocked her out by hitting her on the neck. She kind of looks like Yaoi Rozu now that I think about it," Izuku thought to himself before sensing a massive spike in energy as he turned to see Caulifla in Super Saiyan 3. You can't beat me, no, I'm a Super Saiyan 3 now," Caulifla arrogantly proclaimed to Mordred, who was trying her best not to burst into laughter. "Seems like you don't know about the drawbacks of Super Saiyan 3. Mordred said while holding back her laughter while Caulifla was confused by what Mordred said. "Drawbacks? The hell are you talking about?" Caulifla asked, dumbfounded as Goku and Bardock just face-planted. "She seriously wondered why I barely used Super Saiyan 3. Goku asked with a tone of disappointment in his voice as Caulifla rushed towards Mordred, only for her to dodge and create a distance between them as Caulifla kept trying to hit Mordred, not knowing what she's doing. "Don't tell me scared of me now," Caulifla taunted Mordred to no avail as she kept on the move, much to Caulifla's annoyance, which kept up for a few minutes before Caulifla suddenly started feeling heavily fatigued. "What the hell?" Caulifla asked while confused, angry and extremely tired right as Mordred punched her in the stomach as hard as possible, forcing Caulifla to drop all the way back to her base form as she dropped to her knees. "The street brat, I was fighting with half my power. You're not even close to being able to fight me at full strength," Mordred said right as she kicked Caulifla in the face, knocking her out cold before turning to watch Trunks and Kaba's fight continue. Trunks and Kaba kept throwing well-placed and powerful blows to each other non-stop, causing them to actually get a bit bloody as Trunks grabbed Kaba by the leg before he spun him around and threw him away before firing a burning attack at him, which Kaba just barely had enough time to brace himself as the blast sent him flying towards the ground faster. Kaba managed to regain his bearings as he saw Trunks heading right towards him with a kick as Kaba rolled out of the way and tripped Trunks up and blasted him away, making Trunks roll back on the ground before getting back up and rushing towards Kaba as they hit the other in the gut, making them stumble back for a second. After recovering from the pain, Kaba and Trunks both dropped down to their base forms, both being content having their fight end in a draw. "Wow, you really are Vegeta's son," Kaba said, not exactly hiding the excitement in his voice as Trunks just laughed the compliment off. "Thanks, you're pretty strong yourself. No wonder my dad speaks highly of you," Trunks said as Izuku and Mordred brought over the unconscious Caulifla and Kale as Kaba just shook his head. "Seems like the energy drain of Super Saiyan 3 ended up biting Caulifla in the ass," Kaba said, which caught Izuku, Mordred and Trunks' curiosity. "How'd you know about Super Saiyan 3's drawback?" Izuku asked Kaba, keen to know how Kaba knew about it. "Oh, well, Caulifla told me about Super Saiyan 3 and mentioned that Goku barely used it during his fight with her and Kale, so I figured there had to be a reason why, so I figured energy drain was the issue," Kaba explained, which Izuku wasn't fully convinced but figured it was good enough as Goku picked up Caulifla and Kale and threw them over his shoulders. "Good thing the world wasn't in danger or it wasn't a fight to the death, otherwise she'd be beyond screwed," Goku said as they all flew back to Capsule Corporation. After arriving back, Vegeta and Broly immediately noticed the unconscious Caulifla and Kale, causing the two to snicker as Goku took them to where they could rest up. "Seems like you two had flawless victories," Vegeta said with a proud tone in his voice as he put his hand on Izuku's shoulder. "TCH, it was easy. Street Brat basically handed me the win the moment she used Super Saiyan 3, not even being aware of the drawbacks," Mordred said as Broly and Vegeta rolled their eyes. "She seriously didn't know why Kakarot didn't use it for more than a moment," Broly moaned with annoyance. "That's exactly what Kakarot said," Bardock said as Vegeta turned to look at Trunks and Kaba. "Now then, which one of you won?" Vegeta asked the two. "Ended in a draw," Trunks said as Vegeta simply nodded. "Kaba, you performed far better against Trunks than the deadweight duo did against Izuku and Mordred. Get your rest, your training continues tomorrow," Vegeta said, which made Kaba extremely enthusiastic as Mordred grabbed Izuku by his arm. "Now if you excuse us, I need my Izuku to help me cool down," Mordred said with a flirty tone as Izuku had a goofy look on his face as she dragged Izuku off as Trunks just shook his head. "Least make sure you lock the door and turn on the soundproof walls," Trunks yelled after them while Kaba looked confused. "They always act like that?" Kaba asked as Bardock, Vegeta and Trunks nodded their heads. "You ever get uncomfortable, feel free to blame Broly and Artoria. Mordred gets it from them," Vegeta said, which just made Broly roll his eyes. "Oh, piss off Vegeta," Broly said while flipping Vegeta off as Vegeta returned in kind. "That's it guys. Well, I know it's pretty short. Hopefully the author add more chapters in the future. With that, take care."